නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. Friends, today Saturday 23rd September 2023, we hope to discuss mindfulness of the mind. Chittanupassana, or contemplation of the mind, is really the play of thoughts. There is not a moment in everyone's mind without some thought, and every thought influences us negatively or positively. Practicing mindfulness of thought is looking at the thought objectively and being aware of its presence. Then the thought cannot lead us blindly into action by body or speech. Human beings are generally shy to look at one's own mind too closely, for it may upset one's good opinion of oneself. But continued mindfulness of the thoughts as they arise will help one to understand that thoughts are not self and therefore need not identify with them. Then it's easy to see that, like the body, the mind too is not an entity. But a temporary combination of passing things. It's only a succession of thoughts that arise and pass away, just like the water in a river that looks as if there is a body of water. When you look at the river, the flow of thoughts make us believe that the mind is an entity. Therefore, instead of I think, there is a thinking would be more correct. Then we will not cling to the mind. We do everything to attain some degree of happiness. But our way of trying lacks the important ingredient, that is wisdom. To attain wisdom, we must train our minds, for our suffering or happiness depends on the inner condition of the mind. According to the Buddha, this training is possible only with our own effort. The mind shapes our experiences at all times. Some think that all through our life, it's our past actions that shape the present. But both present and past actions go to form the vipaka, or result. For example, if we take our past karma as raw food, the food, carrots, potatoes, rice, etc., and our present karma is like the cooked food, both are necessary to make the dish. According to the Buddha, karma is intention. That is, action is not just the motion of the body, but a factor of the mind, and the mind's intention causes the good or bad result. That is called vipaka. When we practice right mindfulness, we try to be in the present moment and be conscious of the result. If we are looking at the moonlight, we must be aware of our own mind that is seeing the moon also, not only the moonlight. We must understand that we ourselves cause our own suffering. Suppose we have hurt someone, knowingly or unknowingly. Thinking about it later, one may feel regret, or one may deny it, thinking of justifying your action. Either way, we'll be creating a wall in the mind and not being mindful. When many such situations have arisen, the mind will have built many inner walls, and it will be impossible to see what's happening in the mind. We cannot control the natural suffering like aging, falling sick, or dying. But the suffering we create by our craving and ignorance can be stopped. The Buddha shows how a gatekeeper in a kingdom would protect the city by being alert and preventing enemies from entering through the gate. Here, the enemies are any unwholesome influences that come from outside, plus one's own bad intentions that one must see and prevent them from creating bad karma by being mindful. Developing mindfulness is an internal matter, that is, focusing on one's own body, feelings, mental states, etc. If by chance one extends it to others' bodies and feelings, etc., it should be done with the idea of bringing it to one's own inner purification. When we apply continuous attention, mindfulness can be maintained. The Buddha said, the mind is hard to check. It's so swift and flits wherever it pleases. But to control it is good, for a controlled mind is conducive to happiness. This is found in the Dhammapada. Yeah, the verse starts with Dunniggahassa lahuno. I didn't take the whole verse, but you can find it in the Dhammapada. Under the influence of ignorance and defilements, it may make many different choices. That is the mind. The continuation of ignorance in the mind depends on the conditions we create by our unskillful karma. With determination, the mind can be developed to penetrate through its ignorance. That's why the Buddha said the mind is naturally luminous, but is stained by defilements that come from outside. When the conditions that created the stains are gone, the luminosity returns to the mind. Right mindfulness or Samma Sati is one of the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. To establish Sati, right effort is necessary. For its right effort that helps to recognize and overcome the unwholesome and develop the wholesome. Then, right mindfulness straightens the mind and replaces the coarser elements with more refined ones. The Buddha, before enlightenment, divided his thoughts into two divisions, skillful and unskillful. He saw that while three unwholesome roots like greed, ill will, and delusion colored the unwholesome, generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom fell into the wholesome section. In the world, suffering such as hunger, war, violence, etc., exist due to these three unwholesome states. How can we recognize these states when they enter our minds? Lust has a feverish quality that keeps pulling into our minds. And ill will or hatred and anger alienates and contracts the mind and tries to push away. Delusion causes confusion by moving around in circles within the mind. Friends, have we ever taken a little time to see what our mind or chitta is like? We give it many names like manasa, vijnana, consciousness, chitta, mind, thought, etc. These chittas become colored by our different moods and behavior, etc. When the mind is filled with lust, we say a lustful chitta. In Pali, it's called Lobha Mula Chitta. Lobha Mula, that means the root. Mula is the root. So Lobha Mula means the lust is at the root of the thought. Or when full of anger, we say Dosa Mula Chitta. The characteristic of Chitta is knowing an object. What we normally take as consciousness is actually a series of chittas or fleeting moments of consciousness that arise so quickly that we cannot see them separately. That is why we cannot see that consciousness is also just another thing, not one thing that that is permanent. If unwholesome, that chitta will be joined by one of the unwholesome roots like greed, hatred, and delusion. Such a chitta is mentally unhealthy and morally blameworthy and brings painful results. Wholesome consciousness, that's called kusala chitta, is joined with wholesome roots like non-greed or generosity, non-hatred or loving kindness, and non-delusion or wisdom. Such consciousness is mentally healthy and morally blameless and produces pleasant results. According to the Satipatthana Sutta, there are 16 kinds of chittas. So can you see? We think it is one chitta, right? There are 16 kinds of chittas. The first is Saraga chitta. Now it's called Saraga chitta in Pali. That is a mind with lust. This chitta with wrong view considers form or rupa, sound, smell, touch, taste, etc. as beautiful and attractive. The objects that the mind sees with lustful thought, they think is attractive. And has lustful thoughts on the object, based on the object. This is Ayoniso Manasikara. It is called Ayoniso Manasikara, or thinking improperly. That is, thinking in the wrong way, with wrong view. The yogi should understand the chitta that arises as, now when one gets that kind of thought, the yogi should understand that I have a mind with lust. So when you have a mind with lust, we must try to get rid of it. Now, secondly, now that's the first one. Secondly, when there is no lust, it is called Vitaraga. 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 That means no lust. Also, one should understand it as I have a mind with no lust. You must know what is actually in the mind and not something else, right? Thirdly, it is called Sadosa Chitta. That is a chitta with patiga or hatred. This too is due to wrong view. That is called Ayoniso Manasikara. One understands that the mind is full of hatred. Then what should one do? When you find that the mind is full of hatred, not continue thinking about it, but try to get rid of it. Fourthly, the chitta is called Vita Dosa Chitta. That is one without hatred. Now, with an understanding mind, you see someone maybe who is a little wiser and who is maybe a meditator, right? That is why we call him or her a yogi, with an understanding mind. Seeing the reality, the harm that may come to one, holding on to resentment and anger, or the bad karma that would be created, abandons the resentment. Then one understands one no longer has a hateful mind. Now, fifthly, that is, now we have looked at 4 kinds of chitta. Now, the 5th chitta is called Samoha chitta. Now, that is a mind with delusion, moha. You can see sa moha. Moha means delusion or ignorance. So, a mind with delusion. And one understands that one has a deluded mind. This may be caused by another word in Pali is Sanya Vipallasa. Now, what is Sanya Vipallasa? That is perversion or distortion of perception and views. You see, that is like thinking unpleasant things as pleasant, impermanence as permanence, impurity as pure, right? Now, that is called Sanya Vipallasa. So, now, when one has that kind of mind, one should know, I have a mind that is distorted. My thinking is distorted. Then sixthly, Vita Moha Chitta. That is a chitta free of this delusion and understands that one is free of delusion. That is called Yoniso Manasikara. Now, so far we didn't come across that word, right? We came across Ayoniso Manasikara. That is wrong view. Now we come to Yoniso Manasikara, that means right view. So, then that is the sixth one. Now we come to the seventh. Seventhly, it is called Sankitta Chitta. Now, that is a chitta full of sloth and torpor. Now, you know what sloth and torpor is, right? It's a hindrance. One of the hindrances of the 5 hindrances, you remember? Sloth and torpor. That is laziness or, being, yeah, sleepy. So, it is also contracted mind. One becomes listless and confused and not interested in developing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, the 4 foundations of mindfulness are in the Satipatthana Sutta, that is developing the mind with thinking of the body, thinking of feelings, thinking of mind, and thinking of the mind objects, right? So, someone who has not done that then does not know anything, right? So, now that is the 7th kind of chitta. Now, the 8th kind of chitta is called Vikhitta chitta. By thinking without understanding, the mind is distracted. It is caused by restlessness. Now, that is another hindrance. By restlessness and seeking different kinds of pleasures. You see, one pleasure is not enough. There are many, many pleasures. And so that person wants to get all the pleasures in the world. So it's called Ayoniso Manasikara. Then that person must know, if one wants to practice the Dhamma, one must know what one's mind is having. Then the 9th one is called Mahaggata Chitta. Now that is an important one. Mahaggata Chitta. Here the yogi has practiced the 4 foundations of mindfulness and also Vipassana meditation and is freed from the hindrances. So it's an exalted mind. The yogi will understand this is a powerful chitta. Now the 10th one is Amahaggata Chitta. That is one who has not practiced the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So that the hindrances are still present. There are the hindrances still. And the mind is weak. Right? So even that one must know. If we don't know, someone else might tell you, you have this kind of chitta. And sometimes you don't want to accept it, right? So 11th is Sauttara Chitta. Now, what is Sauttara Chitta? The yogi has practiced the 4 foundations of mindfulness and done insight meditation. Sauttara Chitta means that one has done the 4 foundations of mindfulness and also done the meditation, insight meditation, that Vipassana meditation, and the hindrances are temporarily absent. Not attain the jhanas, not yet attain to the jhanas, then though having samadhi, that is concentration. So the yogi understands that the chitta is surpassable. It is surpassable. Then the 12th one is Anuttara Chitta. That is an unsurpassable mind. Right? That is, practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness, freed from the hindrances. attain the jhanas, and realizes one has an unsurpassable mind. Now, the 13th one is samahita chitta, that is concentrated mind. And one understands that, right? Concentrated. Mind is concentrated. One knows it's concentrated. 14th is asamahita chitta, that is an unconcentrated mind. 15th is vimutta chitta. Due to realization, it's a liberated mind. And one is aware of it. Then the 16th is avimutta chitta, that is one that is not yet liberated. So when it is not yet liberated, that means it has come up to a certain level, but not gone to the end. The liberated chitta is the chitta of an arahant or an anagami. So, in order to understand these chittas, we should meditate even for a short time every day. Some people find it easy to meditate when on a retreat, but in daily life, with a busy schedule, it is hard to maintain mindfulness and calm awareness. Now, Bhante Gunaratana says that slowing down is a way to nourish the roots of mindfulness. He advises all workers, all workers who are working, for a job, right, to earn money, to take 1 minute every hour of one's working hours for a short meditation. This is how it is done. Either close your eyes or keep them focused at a point in front of you. Quietly count 15 breaths. That is both in breath and out breath. Now, both in breath and out breath is 1. Both in breath and out breath, the second one is 2. Like that for 15 minutes. 15, that means 15 breaths. And that is only 1 minute. Don't think about the past or the future. Just keep your mind free from all the things you usually keep thinking about. When that minute is over, you will find a more peaceful and calm mind. This is the way to take charge of your own mind. If your work schedule is 8 hours, you would have 8 minutes of meditation. Thank you.